Termites. It's night 2 with Liberace, and I just realized, see this, I've got this online, and it was $3.98. And then when I was looking at it, it's a first edition. So I'm not going to be giving this one away. I sent the Loretta Lynn book off to Amber, the termite, who asked for it first, so Amber got it. Should be there by now. If not, Amber, keep your eye out in the mail, because that man, that Louis Dujois, has fucked up the post office. Shit, I got Christmas cards the last week in January. I mean, what? My whole life, I've never not gotten the mail on time, sadly. Because a lot of times I wish the mail would get lost. I wish it was late. Then you could honestly say, yeah, I didn't get that shit. But anyway, look for that. We're reading about Liberace termites. Are you cozy? February is a good calm down month. That's how I like to look at February. Just calm down. Don't do a whole lot. It's cold out for everybody in cold states. But it's kind of cold everywhere. Even it's ice in Texas. And we're drinking a little Redbreast. It's 12. This is Redbreast 12. They have other numbers like 18 and I think 21. And this is the cheapest, but it's my favorite. I've had the 18 and I think I had the 21. I know I had the 18. So it's good. It's Redbreast, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just a cheap date. For wintertime, just so cozy. Okay, so we're back with Liberace. I still have my boa on. I'm getting new ones. They have now moved to Philadelphia so that his dad, Liberace, is not born yet. His brother George. I wish my brother George was here. He's their only kid so far. And they've moved back to Philadelphia because Dad plays the French horn. Not a lot of gigs with that. The big city life held no appeal for Frances Liberace. That's his mom. After a lifetime on the farm, she found Philadelphia too clamorous and dirty. And she probably wasn't an Eagles fan. Mwah! And too dangerous for the family she planned to have. She pleaded with her husband to return to Wisconsin so she could once again be close to her family. How am I going to find work in some hick town, Salvador demanded. If we move near Milwaukee, you'll find something, she replied. Their arguments became heated, neither giving any ground. Finally, when Frances threatened to return to Wisconsin along with the baby, Salvador acquiesced. The Liberaces moved to Milwaukee's suburb West Allis, a workers' town filled with immigrants who'd been attracted to the jobs in the factories and the sawmills. Salvador Liberace could ride the streetcar to Milwaukee and hunt for work. He was fortunate and found a steady job. I was going to say, why don't you can you do anything else than play a French horn? That's pretty fucking specific, you know? Maybe be a little bendable. Maybe you could work at a brewery or something and then play your French horn at the gigs you don't have at night. Just saying. He was fortunate enough to find a steady job with the International Harvester Band, which played at the Schlitz, like the beer? Schlitz? Was that in Wisconsin? I did not know that. Schlitz Palm Garden. If you ever go to Milwaukee, you should tour the Miller Lite brewery. Have you ever done that? I did. It was like going to the enemy camp, because I'm from St. Louis, so Anheuser-Busch. But I think they're all owned by the same people now anyway. InBev, don't they own all that? But they have the most awesome, old, super duper old beer caves. And then at the end, you pretend like you've never had a Miller Lite and go, can I try Miller Lite? And then they're like, sure, there's free beer. Like, who hasn't fucking had a Miller Lite? If you're at a brewery, I'm guessing you've had a Miller Lite. But they were very, very friendly, and it's a great tour, and it's super cool, old stuff. It's very cool. That's a little travel tip. In 1914, Frances gave birth to their second child, who was named Angelina. Then on May 16th, 1919, in their new home at 635 51st Street, renumbered 1649 60th Street in 1931, the twins were born. That's Liberace and his twin that didn't. One survived, and his mother's often told the neighbors that there was something special about little Vlad. I don't know how to say this name. I'll call him Walter, because it's that Ladzu. He took all the strength from his little brother, she said. That was a sign. Yeah. Neighbors often heard fierce arguments emanating from the Liberace house. Frances screamed that the other children were going hungry because her husband was such a poor provider. He responded with the Italian fury that if she hadn't persuaded him to leave Philadelphia, he might be able to find work with his French horn. You gotta get off the French horn, dude. No. You can't do that. You can't say, it's like saying I play a harp. Well, it's great. But I mean, if there's no harp gigs, steady ones, you have kids, you gotta go get a job. When he was forced to take out-of-town jobs, she complained that he was neglecting her and the children. She also suspected him of philandering. Well, you can't bitch that he's out of town if that's a gig. You got to go along with it. By 1923, it had become bitterly apparent that Salvador Liberace could no longer support his wife and 3 children by occasional jobs in movie theaters and beer hall bands. He bought a grocery store in West Milwaukee. Well, where'd you get the money for that? Which was closer to the city. He and Frances worked in the store in the day, and he took whatever musical work he could find at night. Okay, now you're getting on a track. I don't understand where he got the money to just fucking buy a grocery store. That's a lot. The family occupied an apartment behind the store. The second child was now called Walter because his playmates couldn't pronounce Vladzoo. Neither can this lady. This playmate would have went straight to Walter, too. His earliest moments were of the grocery store, the place of delights and wonders where he played on the linoleum floor while his mother waited on customers. Despite his robustness at birth, Walter proved to be a fragile child, vulnerable to the harsh Wisconsin winters. 4 times in his early years, he fell ill with pneumonia. When he was 9, he almost died of it. Wow. His mother always nursed him back to health, sitting all night at his bedside with cold towels to soothe the fever. When he recovered, she prepared Polish dishes, hoping to add some weight to his skinny frame. Happily, the grocery store assured food on the table for the Liberaces, even though the family finances were lean. Because his mother was occupied with the store, Walter was relegated to care for his sister, Angelina. To the care of his sister, Angelina, 5 years older. She introduced him to the exciting world of make-believe, in which they costumed her dolls with fragments of cloth and feathers and created kings and princesses and movie stars. Sister and brother could wander for hours through fantasies of romance and adventure. Salvador Liberace dictated that his children should be learning music by the age of 4. George had started piano lessons while the family still lived in Philadelphia. But during the move to Milwaukee, the storage ticket for the family piano was lost. Oh, God. While the piano was being hunted, Salvador asked George, would you like to start learning the violin? George agreed. The piano was finally located, and shipped to West Allis, and Angelina began taking lessons from a neighbor, Mrs. Martin. One day when George was practicing his violin upstairs, the father heard 4-year-old Walter picking out George's tunes on the piano. Walter's lessons began immediately. Even afterward, Angelina had to fight her little brother for practice time at the living room piano. Well, at least he had him do this. That's just good. After learning to read music from Mrs. Martin, Walter became I can't say that word, absorbing every piece of sheet music in the piano bench. Angelina, who was not a great student, was frustrated and angry at her little brother's ease at the keyboard. When she was 13, she was given the assignment of memorizing 17 pages of Mendelssohn's Midsummer Night Dream. After several weeks, she was still struggling with it. Here, let me do it, he suggested Walter, who was 7. Within a day, he could play the number perfectly. Wow, that's fucked up. The Paderewski incident, I don't know what that means, became a major part of the Liberace family lesson, and its retelling over the years has made it difficult to discern fact from fiction. The most engaging version was related by Frances Liberace in the years after her son became famous. Ignace, that's a name, I-G-N, Ignace, I-G-N-A-C-E, Jan Paderewski? I don't know. These are some very difficult Polish names. Had been a towering world figure for more than a half a century, a fiercely patriotic Polish person. He started the music world in the 1890s with his dynamic piano style and his unruly hair. Well, now I got to Google this guy. and stern face and erect bearing made him the image of the virtuoso in the concert halls of the world. After the outbreak of World War I, he had devoted himself to the establishment of an independent Poland, and in 1919 he became prime minister of the new nation. He abandoned politics and 2 years later resumed his concert career. Well, aren't you something? According to Frances Liberace, her own mother had worked for a music studio in Berlin where a young Pole named Paderewski taught the piano. The girl translated his instructions from Polish into High German for the well-to-do pupils. It is 1926, and Paderewski embarked on another of his triumph-filled United States tours. Francis' mother writes to ask if he remembers the Polish girl who translated for his piano lessons in Berlin. Indeed, he did remember her name. The maestro answered, and he would be delighted to see her when he appears in Milwaukee. Can you imagine? Oh, my God. This super famous Polish guy, and you wrote him a letter. He's like, yeah, come on backstage. No problem. The meeting is arranged at the Liberace house. Oh, he's going to her house in West Milwaukee. Paderewski arrives, a majestic figure in a velvet cape, and he greets his old friend affectionately. He obliges with a few short numbers on the piano in the front parlor and then sits on the horse chair and reminisces about Berlin with Mrs. Zakowski. She has a high, sweet voice, but her husband doesn't like to sing, so she doesn't. Her grandson Walter is not so shy. Mr. Paderewski, may I play the piano for you? The boy asks. The visitor gives an indulgent smile, and Walter climbs on the stool and delivers a Chopin piece. Very good, my boy, says Paderewski. Perhaps someday when I'm gone, you will take my place. A nice story. And Liberace himself never tired of telling it in an endless variations to interviewers and audiences. He recounted a likelier version in his 1973 autobiography. He wrote that his father had acquired tickets for the entire family to attend a Paderewski concert at the Pabst Theater in Milwaukee. That's where I work. The Pabst Theater is the greatest backstage ever because they have Mrs. Pac-Man is back there. They have Asteroids, a lot of video games, and I'm not Miss Pac-Man because it was one at the restaurant I worked at. And then they have like all this cheese. I don't even ask for food, and they just put it out. They're so nice, all these cheeses. That's how I found the public market where the cheese is hiding in Milwaukee. That's right. How did I make it to Milwaukee 100 times and I never knew about that market? Then I found that cheese wheel down there. Oh, my God. But the Pabst Theater, too, you guys, if you've ever gone in there, you may not notice it when you go in because the lights aren't super bright. But on the back chairs anywhere, it says Pabst in gold. Like it's super, super awesome. And I filmed a special there. And they're the nicest crew on the planet and very happy to have you. And a lot of crews don't act like that. A lot of them, we kind of are just a pain in their ass. But these guys and girls, super fun. Anyway, so there's a shout out to the Pabst Theater, which hopefully I will go back to one day if we're ever freed to run around again like normal people. The fall. I think it's scheduled for the fall. That'll be exciting, won't it? Maybe I'll stay and then go down to Green Bay for a Packer game because I'm working there too. In Green Bay, I know that's on the schedule too. Hopefully all that will happen. The Liberaces were among those trooped backstage for a meeting with the great man. The boy Walter remarked that he could play some classical pieces Paderewski had offered in his concert. Impressed, Paderewski placed his hand on Walter's head and remarked, someday this boy may take my place. So that other story, maybe not, right? He was a solitary boy, not only because of his devotion to the piano. Even those playmates who didn't shun him for being a sissy found him hard to understand. In his youthful enthusiasm, he tumbled out his words in an incoherent mass. His teachers chastised him for speaking so rapidly. Is that a thing? People talk too fast. I would say, well, listen faster. How fast did the kid talk? Was it that bizarre? His teachers chastised him for speaking so rapidly, and they marked him down when he was unable to correct himself. What's the matter with the kid, his father asked. Is he dim-witted or something? His wife was shocked at the suggestion. Of course not. You see how he plays the piano? He's brilliant. It's just a passing thing the way he talks. He'll grow out of it. I don't think so. I think there's something wrong with him. That sounds like an old school dad. What are you like, dumb? What are you, a moron? Just call it exactly what you're thinking. No grace, no thought of what that could do to a kid. I don't know. I think there's something wrong with him. Salvador Liberace expressed his concern to Steve Swedish, a big, robust musician who worked with him in a movie house pit band. You know, I've heard about kids like Walter. Sometimes they talk that way because their tongues are too tight. What? What do you mean their tongues are too tight? There's a little piece of the flesh. Oh, talk like that. Tongue-tied. Tongue-tied's a thing. It was a thing when I was a kid. I don't know. Maybe it's not a thing anymore. I don't know. Sometimes I think Donald Trump Jr., seriously, Jr., not Trumpy, the kid. Because when he talks, it's like his tongue is like kind of tight on this side. This is something very strange. Or maybe it's just cocaine. I don't know. Maybe it's both. Maybe it's neither. It's just, there's something weird. It's like, I don't know. What do you mean their tongues are too tight? There's a little piece of flesh on the tongue that prevents them from speaking clearly. A doctor can make a little snip and it's fixed. A week later, Liberace told Swedish, I took Walter to the doctor and did what you said and it didn't make no difference. Fuck, you cut his tongue and there was nothing wrong with it? Holy shit. Then it isn't something physical, said Swedish. Walter needs some speech therapy. The best man I know is Father Raphael Hamilton at Marquette University. He's a priest who specializes in speech problems. So you just took him in and some doctor did that? You said, hey, could you just clip some stuff around his tongue? Wow. Starting at the age of 7, Walter underwent years of therapy with Father Hamilton, who drilled in him concentrating on vowels so his speech developed a smoother flow. When he was 15, Walter underwent a summer course in diction to rid himself of his boyhood accent, the result of hearing a father who spoke Italian-shaded English and a mother who retained evidence of her Polish upbringing. Walter had to concentrate on the to avoid saying D's and dem. What? I don't know what's going on in this family, but whew. The result was the deliberate, almost cloying Liberace style of speech duplicated by nightclub impressions. Well, I'm going to have to go find videos of him talking. I never noticed there was anything. He was just flamboyant, but I didn't think it was like strange. Years later, when attending a Liberace concert in Milwaukee, Father Hamilton would nudge Steve Swedish conspiratorially and mutter, hey, Steve, we made Liberace. I don't know. Salvador Liberace realized that Walter had progressed beyond the simple piano lessons of Mrs. Walker. But how could he find better training for the boy when the family could hardly make ends meet? If only an accomplished teacher would recognize the promise in Walter and offer to instruct him for free. Salvador remembered a super pianist with whom he had once played a concert. Father and son went hand in hand to the Wisconsin College of Music and met with Florence Kelly, an elegant, warm-hearted pianist and teacher who had studied with the virtuoso Maurice Rosenthal. He plays very, very well for a boy his age. Very well indeed, said Mrs. Kelly after Walter offered a few selections on the piano. I'd be willing to take him as a student, and I believe I can get him a scholarship with the conservatory. Well, good for her. Thus began the most important musical influence of Liberace's professional life. Teacher and student remained together in sometimes contentious partnership for 17 years, the longest scholarship ever granted by the conservatory. And Mrs. Kelly continued coaching Liberace even after he became famous. Well, that's a nice thing, right? Sounds like she was a nice enough person. The Depression brought hardship to the Liberace family, and not only because of the economic malaise that crippled the entire nation, but by the end of 1929, the revolution of sound had swept the film industry, and talkies eliminated the need for symphony orchestras to accompany the action on the screen, nor was there other work to be found for serious musicians. Salvatore Liberace was unemployable. Well, you still own a grocery store. This family is so musical. How about learn a different flippin' instrument? I only play the French horn. I'm not budging. I love the French horn. I mean, if you're talented enough, I don't know. You know, that's just stubborn. Stubborn to the point of ridiculous. And I say that sitting here in a green boa. All right, termites. Weather's still shitty. There's no football on. Nothing to bet on. Golf. I don't really watch the NBA. I'm from St. Louis. We never had a team, so I never got into it. I don't really watch basketball. Hockey. Yes, I like hockey. St. Louis Blues. What? Just seems like a kind of a boring time, but that's all right, right? Boring is not bad. Boring's good. I've been painting. It's really all I got, termites. Nothing too exciting. Good time for sleeping, napping, fire, ice storm outside right now. How about the 100-car accident in Texas? I used to do a joke 100 years ago because it was like a 90-car accident in Ohio. And I said, look, I get it if you're car number 2 or 3, 4. But if you're like car 88, how'd you not see that coming? Like, holy shit, the whole highway stopped. I don't know. I'll have to go look at it. There's a video online somewhere. I don't know what really happened, but I think hopefully everybody will be okay. Okay, I just switched to my brother George. You're tongue-tied. What are you, stupid? What are you, dim-witted? What are you, a moron? I remember one of my brothers stuttered for a little bit, and my dad would make him read out loud, and it was brutal. And I'm like, I don't think this is working. You're just making him more nervous. This is horrible. Oh, and we didn't have any books that were like, that, I don't know why he ended up reading like a car magazine or some shit. And he just kept stuttering. But then they brought a speech trailer to the Catholic school. The speech trailer came like once every 2 weeks, and then my sister was embarrassed because he went in the speech trailer. So they made kids feel so bad back then. Hopefully they don't do that anymore. All right, termites. Pull your sheets up. It's cold out there. It's icy, snowing. My friends that live in Oswego, New York, have like 20 inches of snow. I haven't talked to Lewis. I don't know if it's snowing in New York City today. It snowed all weekend. A lot of snow out there. All right. Are you comfortable? No, know this before you go to bed. You're a good termite. You're worthy termites. You're nice to each other. Helpful termites. Very helpful to me. I get a lot of comments of things that I need for the podcast or that I just would think were interesting, and I do. And I'm going to start shouting people out more specifically because I feel like I get so excited that I download it and then I forget who sent that. But I'll start being better about that. And that's it. Pull your sheets up, termites. I can't pull mine up because my little microphone's right here. Or I pull it all the way up. I can do this, though. Ready? Are you ready? Close your eyes. Night-night, termites.